interesting time to tell the story about immortality when, because as Greg said, this question has been made from the beginning of human history, when the story about immortality, the myth, was always there from different civilizations. But right now is also an interesting time because of many things, and one of those is that science is starting talking for real about the chance of extend the limits of the human biological life beyond the natural limits of it. So it is also a big question of that, and the demand of that from people who's aware of it. Bueno, la función del artista de cómics, en cierto modo, tiene una relación con la del director de una película. A mí me gusta decir que si me tengo que definir cuál es mi trabajo, yo soy un contador de historias, o sea, cuento historias de forma visual. El dibujo es una herramienta para hacerlo, pero el punto de vista de que el dibujante de historieta, todo lo que muestra, absolutamente todo lo que está mostrando con los dibujos, está ahí porque el dibujante decide ponerlo ahí. Entonces tiene una intención y hace un trabajo un poco que es el de no solamente el director de la película, sino el director de casting, de iluminación, de cámara. Es un poco los actores también, porque los hace moverse, los hace actuar, gestualizar. Entonces es un poco de todos esos trabajos combinados y desarrollados a través del dibujo, para ver una historia contada con imágenes. En ese sentido, cómo se relaciona con una historia que también es contada con imágenes, como puede ser una película. En un principio, durante muchos años me convencí de que ser un profesional significa trabajar sin estar inspirado. Me parecía que la inspiración era una forma artificialmente romántica de darle importancia a algo, pero en realidad me di cuenta de que no, que la inspiración es necesaria y, y no es lo mismo. O sea, si bien puedo trabajar un día en el que no estoy inspirado, uno que estoy inspirado, no es lo mismo cuando estoy inspirado. Y la inspiración viene de muchas cosas, de estar bien mentalmente, de hacer cosas que me puedan gustar, como poder estar un día al aire libre, en el río, remando, o andando en bicicleta, o simplemente pasando un buen rato con alguien. Pero el bienestar emocional, sobre todo, es fundamental para poder trabajar de la mejor manera posible. No es automático. O sea, lo puedo hacer, pero los resultados son subjetivamente distintos, definitivamente. I hope, first than anything, I don't want to feel that there is not a deep answer, but I want people to have a space of having a good time. That's the first thing. And after all the things we've been telling about, I think it's very important for people to continue or start asking questions to themselves. I'm more concerned about that than to finding certain answers. Of course, we are looking for the answers, but I always find, I mean, this is something philosophical. It's not for me, but to make the right questions. That's something that I like to push the curiosity on the audience to that.
So much spoke to me about this story. When I first read the script, honestly, I knew within 5 minutes of reading that I was in. I loved the story. I loved the fact that it kept surprising me. I loved the fact that two women were at the center of this, one being a young Black woman in a heroic role, which is so needed always, but especially at this time. I love that this film had something to say about finding your purpose, about doing good in the world. And I love action. I love action films. And here was an opportunity finally for me to be able to play in the big sandbox and bring my aesthetic to the genre. And that was very exciting to me. Foremost, I give all props to Greg Rucka, who created such incredible characters and put them in this great story. They inspired me. And once you have these great female characters, you want to make sure you have the best actors to embody those two. These are special characters. One, Andy, who's 6,000 years old, who is the best fighter in the world. But she is at a point in her life where she wants it to end. She's seen enough heartache and heartbreak. She's seen the world hurt each other over and over again, and she feels like she can't make a difference. And then you have a new baby immortal, Nile, who is honestly like the audience, somebody coming into this world and trying to figure it out, a woman who has an innate goodness and wants to do good in the world, but is so confused about what is happening and confused about this choice that she may have to make between this new family and her old family. So to get Charlize and KiKi to embody these characters, it was a gift. Both really, really good actors, both love the action genre and threw themselves into it, knowing how important it was that these two women looked dope in all of the action. In going into this film, I knew I wanted it to, just be a badass action film, but it's also for me an action drama. And the quiet moments in this are as important as the big set pieces. And for that to really resonate, for this film to resonate, I knew I needed great actors and wanted great actors in every role, and was so incredibly fortunate to get this cast that I have. Chiwetel, who is just the dopest. The fact that he's in here playing Copley, he brought so much grace and just such a realness to the character of Copley, a character that could have been one note, but he just added so many beautiful levels to the character. Marwan Kenzari, who plays Joe, phenomenal actor, just this humor and manliness and warmth that he brought to Joe. Luca Marinelli, who plays Nicky, really the heart of the group, such incredibly soulful eyes, and just brought a goodness as well to it. Matthias, Schoenaerts, I just remember sitting across from him and him saying, I don't normally do movies like this, but I want to do this movie. And he just loved the themes of it and loved what he was going to have a chance to explore. And then Harry Melling, who many people know from Harry Potter, he has that face, is a perfect, I don't know if this is a compliment, but the perfect villain face. And it was fun for he and I to just talk about, who this character is and how timely he is, a man in pharma, and a young man in pharma who really has no moral compass and, wants to rule the world. I am the first, which is unfortunate in 2020 that there are still firsts, but in being the first, there is naturally an incredible pressure. I've got to get it right. It needs to be successful so that others can come up behind me. And that honestly was what drove me and got me up. I mean, taking on a film of this scale, it's hard. It's a lot of work. It's been 2 years of my life, but I was so passionate about this story, so excited about it, so excited to bring my aesthetic to the genre, with my use of music and songs for score, with an intimately epic feel to it, great performances, all of those things I wanted to bringing the handheld feel to it, and surrounded myself with an incredible crew, just the best, who were so supportive of the vision. My stunt crew and who helped me put together just, I think, really great action sequences that all had a real grounded feel to it, which was important to the storytelling. An incredible cast that was able to embody it all. Again, but at the end of the day, hey, you want it to feel different. How can we elevate this material? And for me, I felt that it was the themes that we highlighted within the story that helped elevate it. And one of the things I love so much about the story is how global it feels. The fact that we have, all these warriors from different walks of life and different cultures. So I wanted that to be reflected truthfully in this film. So it was important for me to cast characters that reflected who these characters were from the different countries. And I really wanted them to use their natural accents. It's funny, so many of them said, should I get a dialect coach to make me sound a little more English? And I was like, no, I love the way that you speak. And what was so beautiful on set is how much they spoke each other's languages. And in hearing that just in rehearsals and in their conversations, I just thought how beautiful it would be to bring that into the actual film. And so that was something that we all embraced and let them be free, and sometimes talk in English and then talk in their natural language. And the fact that they all understood each other talking all these languages, I had to often, when I said cut, I was like, wait, what did you say? To make sure it was appropriate. But I felt that it just brought a beautiful global feel to the whole film. The old guard absolutely fights for what is right. They fight for good. And that is a fight that has been going on for centuries. And one of the reasons why they feel exhausted at this point in the story, the fact that they've been doing this, yet the world keeps hurting itself over and over on the loop, despite how much they're fighting for good. I did love that aspect of the story. But also when you think about what's going on today and how relevant and how needed they are, I would love to think that the old guard is out there during this global pandemic, through this strife that's happening in so many different countries, that they are out there fighting the good fight. What I really hope that an audience takes away from this film is that we all have a specific amount of time on this earth. And so what are we going to do with our time here? And my hope is that we do good.
I think the thing that sets the old guard apart from other stories of its kind, and we've talked about this in the sense that, stories about people who cannot die are not new. They're ancient. We have vampire myths and other stories beyond that. But I think one of the things that the old guard does is really interrogate with emotional honesty what it would be like. And I don't think necessarily that's the first time that's been done either, but I do think it is the first time, to my knowledge, that the question has been asked as pointedly as it's asked in the old guard, and allows for a diversity of answers, that every character in the story has a different take on it. It was an extraordinary journey, just the whole process of adaptation, because it really started with Skydance and with the folks at Skydance who had fallen in love with the old guard, and then were very active in guiding me through the screenplay process. And then when Gina came aboard, immediately her passion for the project just drove me and was energizing and exciting, and absolutely made the script better and better. I'm never quite sure how to answer it, because I don't have a whole lot to compare it to. All I know is that I will be incredibly fortunate if on the next movie I get to write, I have an experience remotely like this one. Well, they don't know. And that's kind of the point, in the same way that we don't know. You know, we live our lives and we provide a direction to our lives. And one of the things that provides that direction is knowing that our lives have an end. And one of the things that knowing our lives have ends drives us towards is wanting to leave something for ourselves and for others, for the people we care about, to make what we leave behind better. So that on some level, you know, as we try to get through our days, we also are trying to make the days to come easier, if not just for ourselves, for the people we care about. So in that, you know, they can't articulate to you a mission. Nicky would say, you know, the purpose is to help. We're here, we want to help people. And nobody on the team would disagree with that. They might argue about the relative merits of the kind of help they are able to offer. But, you know, viewing it in terms of a lot of what this movie is about is in many ways defining and refining a purpose. And that is absolutely relevant to this moment. I mean, that's relevant to where we are living now. That is relevant to a world that is combating a new pandemic, and certainly in much of the world combating an ancient pandemic now. You know, that we are talking about racism and systemic social issues in a way that I think we genuinely haven't engaged before, and with an impatience that I think is frankly inspiring. There are a lot of people who are going, why are we still having to fight these fights? These battles should have been done and dusted a long time ago. And now imagine that you're 1,000 years old. You're going to be agreeing with that. You're going to be like, yeah, I thought we were through this one already. So, you know, I think it's very relevant for where we are today. First and foremost, I want the audience, whoever comes to this movie, I want them to enjoy it. I want them to leave it going, well, that was 2 hours I am glad I spent. And on that level alone, I hope that they have been entertained, and I hope that they have been moved, and I hope that they have been able to laugh as well as potentially cry at this story, which I think, you know, one of the things that is so beautifully executed by Gina's direction, by Charlize, and, you know, her performance, and KiKi is that, in particular, it is a emotional roller coaster, and I think it is emotionally honest. But I also think that there is a real question about, on a deeper level, you can walk away from this movie really interrogating what it is and what power we have as individuals day to day in our lives to make life better for others in ways we cannot even imagine. We do not know the effects of our actions. And, you know, that may sound a little Pollyanna, but we all tend to be a little myopic day to day. And it is good to be reminded that the choices you make have impacts that you cannot conceive of, not, you know, down the street or tomorrow, but in 50 years and around the world. And everybody has that ability and should be granting it to everybody else.
I play Copley, who's a former CIA agent who gets involved in the story because he's now setting up some of the gigs that the old guard get up to, ostensibly to do good, to help in the world, and so on. But as you know, his character and this character and several of the other characters, you know, there are ulterior motives at play. And he gets embroiled in the story into these delicate ethical, moral, and complex questions with the slightly more corporate and financial side of the world, and trying to find solutions, or how the old guard can create solutions to some of the problems that he's also faced, and some of the challenges that he's had on a personal level. Copley's, you know, he has. I had a great deal of empathy for the character, and I think that was you know, an important place to start. That you feel that you understand his journey and why he's doing the things that he does, and then I think that there's a very strong and interesting sense of evolution with this character that I also engaged with, and that made it very exciting and an interesting prospect to play that. I think that, you know, I don't know how different anything is to anything in a way. I just think it's a very good version of this kind of storytelling. Really strong characters, really interesting perspectives. I think very kind of rich ideas that are being explored, and I think that is why it's really engaging. And I think that all of the characters in the film have very, very interesting journeys, and they are, and some levels they are full of action, obviously, but in some levels those journeys are psychological and philosophical, and they throw up all of these existential questions, especially around immortality. And I think all of that is really exciting and fun and engaging. I was very excited to work with Gina. I had really loved her film Beyond the Lights before, and I was excited to see her working in this space, you know, in this kind of this bigger film, all of this action, but also these two great female leads, and a story that can be told from that perspective as well. And so I was, I mean, that was my real entry point into the film. That's what I was excited to explore. And, you know, and that was that was the process. You know, she was a great collaborator. She was very, very easy to speak to, and she kind of wears her heart on her sleeve in the sense that she really feels the emotional journey very strongly. And so it allows you as an actor to kind of have sort of faith in that, to have faith in that way of storytelling, and that, you know, nothing had to be presented with a kind of, with sort of blunt force. You know, nothing had to land with a dull thud. Everything could be subtle and nuanced and engaging, and all of these relationships do that, and it feels very lived. And that's what I think is exciting about her and the film. There's so much to take from the old guard, and I think it's all of those kind of classic things, you know, that you have a really great time. You've been thoroughly entertained. You've had an enjoyable experience, but it's also made you think a little bit about things that, and for me, you know, it's things that have always been on the periphery that you consider from time to time, but like watching a film that allows you to kind of get under the hood a little bit and really explore ideas like immortality and the nature of what genuinely makes life special, but within the framework of something fun and entertaining and fantastical is great.
So Merrick is a young entrepreneur who is involved in the pharmaceutical world. And he finds out very early on in the film that there are people in the world who are immortal, and this immediately interests him. And he goes on a journey to try and A, find them, and to B, try and work out their genetic code and see if it can be of any use in terms of curing the diseases of the world. Well, for Merrick, what really excited me about the script was the fact that there was so much nuance there. You know, you meet him and he's not your out and out villain in terms of he wants to destroy the world from the off. He really does want to do good. And then as the film goes along, maybe we start to question his reasons and his ethics. So that is what drew me to him. It wasn't a sort of, it was a journey that had its sort of, you know, that move, that turned, and to play as an actor, that's always an exciting prospect. I think the combination of action as well as these amazing character arcs, it's not just, you know, your lead who gets the big arc. Every single character in this film has a really brilliant, dramatic, emotional arc. And watching it for the first time, that is what sort of blew me away. You know, you go from these very complex character studies and you just go straight into action. And that combination makes for a really thrilling film. It was amazing. I mean, from the off, when I first met Gina in Shepperton Studios, I knew I really wanted to work with her. Her energy is infectious. The way she handled the set was incredible. What she wanted the film to be was just an incredible thing from start to finish, really. And I always say this on film sets, it always starts from the top. You know, the director sets the tone, and then we kind of follow. So Gina was a brilliant leader. I just hope they have a really good time. You know, it's a thrilling ride. It's got amazing action sequences, as well as it throws up some very important questions as to what is important about our lives. You know, what are the things we should treasure? So all of that combined makes for a thrilling film. It was certainly what I was thinking about when the credits rolled when I first watched it. Just a combination of all those things together in one thing.
Nile, she is the newest immortal. There hasn't been a new one in 200 years. So, you know, by the time the story starts, you know, like what Charlize was saying about Andy, Nile's on the complete opposite of that. You know, this is all extremely new to her, and she's just trying to find a sense of purpose in all of it. Why was she given, you know, this ability, and why was she given it at this time? So that's the biggest thing, you know, that she's trying to make sense of. What is this new life for her? And I was drawn to her because there is so much to explore in that, to have a character who is experiencing this, you know, very profound change in her life and trying to find purpose in that. But then at the same time, I mean, I thought it was super dope, the opportunity to, you know, be an action hero and to, you know, be kicking some ass. So, yeah. It was a lot, and we started months in advance before we started filming, which I mean, I'm definitely grateful for because this was my first experience, you know, doing a film like this. So just having the time before there's, you know, all these cameras on me watching me do it, time to get my body adapted and to feel confident and safe in using my body in this way to help support and tell this story. But I mean, it was intense. We would be training for hours a day. And I mean, that's training in the gym, that's doing stunts, that's doing tactical and weapons training. They weren't playing around. So thank you to our entire stunt team. They were amazing. I hope that they, I mean, one, on the industry side of things, I hope that it opens doors for more Black actresses to be able to tell these types of stories. I mean, we are daily, you know, superheroes, and I feel like that needs to be represented more in cinema. But then with everything that's going on, I just hope that people really are able to tap into the strength and the pride of seeing a Black woman who is fighting and who is so committed to the greater purpose of the warrior that she is. You know, that's one of the big things that Nile asks throughout the film is, but why? Why have I been given this ability? Why have I been given this ability at this time? Because she knows that it is something bigger than herself. It's not just about her. And I think that with all that's going on right now, that's a big question that all of us are being asked globally of, you know, what could we, how should we be using this time or whatever gift, ability, whatever that may be that we have. It's how rich these characters are. I think that sometimes in superhero films, it just becomes about the fact that they are the hero and they have these really cool abilities and powers and all of that. But this film, I feel, leans more into the fact that these are people who have happened to be given this extraordinary ability, but they are people and are still dealing with very human, real situations and pain and hurt and circumstances. And I think that's a big part of what sets it apart. I think people are going to really relate to these characters on a deeper human level compared to other superhero films. I feel like it's one of those things that sometimes you don't actually know how what you are doing is having an impact, but you've been called to do that thing. So I think the old guard is really just being asked to lean into this ability, and then they may not always see the, you know, how it's affecting and how it is being impactful, but they have been given it for a reason, and they just have to lean into that, even if they can't always see, you know, what that reason and impact is.
I play Andy, who has been alive for over 6,000 years. She's the first of the team to become immortal. And she spends the first couple of centuries very much alone. So by the time we find her in the story, she's lived a lot, and she's tired, and she's a bit demoralized and by just the world and humanity. And she's given up in many ways. Her sentiment is that the world should burn and that she doesn't care anymore. So we find her kind of rediscovering her faith, not only in herself, but in humanity. And a lot of that happens through the character of Nile, played by KiKi, who slowly kind of break down her walls and brings her back to a more vulnerable state of understanding the purpose that they all serve and how important it is to keep fighting. I think all of us really wanted to make this film. A huge part of it was because we saw so much potential in kind of raising that action bar. There were just these incredible set pieces that felt really exciting and fresh to explore physically. And so we demanded a lot from them, and they really stepped up to the plate. But that meant that all of the actors really had to be disciplined about dedicating themselves and kind of showing up to that gym, even when it hurt. And, you know, there are days where it's really hard, but the consistency is really what pays off. And also just having a team that just never, ever gave in to anything that felt mediocre. And so you know, when you work that hard, the movie really shows it. The action in this is just so exciting. And, you know, a lot of it is because KiKi and I get to explore a lot of that, and Van, another actress who plays another great character in this, Quinn. So to watch women get to explore this exciting, you know, new way of physical storytelling is really exciting to watch in this film. Being skilled in just one form of martial arts takes, you know, a lifetime of dedication. And I've never really practiced martial arts. So, you know, when you look at your time frame and you have 4 months and you have to perfect all of them, it's somewhat overwhelming. But we really assessed what specific moves could translate that narrative. And so we were very, very specific in picking things that we knew that were some of my strengths, and we really honed in on them so that the technique was really perfect. And so when she has one karate move, we really spent, you know, a lot of time perfecting the technique, the posture, and the effortlessness of it. But we had to be really smart about that, because people really care about that stuff. People who love these movies, they really pay attention to that. And so you want to honor that and do it as perfect as you possibly can.
I felt immediately in love with the story and with the message of this movie. And I think how the movie is dealing with a lot of themes. And I will say that I'm very proud of being part of this movie that shared this message of great love for people and humanity. There is a huge message of participate to the present, because they ask.
That's true. That's true. Very important. You're right.
They participate in the present time. You know, they are there in that moment, and they are fighting for something that they believe is good. So I think that's one important message that I hope the audience is going to bring home.
I've seen or read anything before that was focused on a relationship between two people that would go on for so long. In this case, as you said, centuries. And so I was excited and curious how that would play out. And that there was a specific moment in the script that drew my attention, and that was something that I thought was emotional and strong, and therefore I was attracted to it. She's she has a lot of patience, and she's obviously passionate about making this movie. Otherwise, she wouldn't be on it. But she's a calm and a very, very, very kind human being, and respects her actors and respects what you bring, and will always listen to you if you have a specific intake on something. Therefore, it was it was nice being around her, and I guess it was a big production, big challenge. I think it was a big challenge for her too. But I hope that she's proud of it. At the same time, you're looking at different characters with all these different motives and different emotions. If you compare KiKi's character and Charlize's character and Chiwetel's character and Harry's character and Matthias and Luca and mine, we're all dealing with this mysterious inability to die, and at the same time, we have these different ideas about it, which creates an interesting world. It's just interesting to watch, and it's fantastically written. The graphic novel to obviously to start from, and the way the story unfolds, it's intricate, and it's exciting. I think it's interesting to have, after a period of time in lockdown, and the world being in the state that it is, to have a thrilling action movie with interesting character development is just fun to watch.
I definitely agree that the genre and the scale is definitely different. That's also one of the main attraction points for me. I've never did anything that was set in a supernatural realm, so to speak, and that had that scale, that scope. So I found that, and that was based on a graphic novel. So I found that a challenge. And I think that, I resonated with the character. The character really resonated with me, and because he has a pretty existential journey, and he's battling demons. He's questioning his life, his future, and his relationship with eternity and immortality. So I think it's a very relatable quest that he's on, and it touched me. It touched me, especially there's one particular scene in the movie that I'm not going to spoil, and that scene that's the scene that made me want to do the movie. If that scene wouldn't have been in there, I would have liked the project, but I wouldn't have done it. It's really that scene that triggered me, and that's where my heart got connected to the matter, to the project, and that was my gasoline. That was the thing that I was rooting for. That's the thing I was like, yeah, that to me that was kind of the core of what the All Guard is about. And I was glad that I was able to have that scene, and that's the thing that pulled me in. And then of course working with all, the amazing actors like Charlize, KiKi, Luca, Marwan not so much, but no, and Marwan also. No, we had a great team, great talent, motivated people, enthusiastic people, and then also the travel component. Yeah, there was a lot to love about it. But the core thing was definitely the heart for me of this project, was that very specific scene that really made sense to me, and that I saw as a challenge, and that for me kind of synthesized what the All Guard is about. They try to install justice. Not install, but they just try to fight for justice and try to stand up against any kinds of oppression, and try to be on the good side, try to be on the side of the oppressed, and try to fight for liberation, try to fight for justice, try to fight for, try to fight all kinds of injustice, basically. there.
All right. So let's.
And be on a biggish shot on KiKi, yes, yeah.
When she's riding on the ground, you know, when you're going to eject your show, which will show you when you turn it sideways.
Okay, so more on. So we are going to break for lunch now. Okay, and we'll shoot first time.
So the camera's down.
Ourselves set up here.
Already.